Broadcasting from the KMF Collective Studio, it's time for the Keep Moving Forward podcast. Join us every week as we dive into the stories of remarkable current and former athletes that have transitioned into the real world. Now here's your host, Katie Galley.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the 248th episode of the Keep Moving Forward podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galley. After coming off of a pretty crazy year in 2020, recording today on Sunday, January 3rd. So 2 days into the new year, into 2021. And historically, I have always created a whole list of goals leading into a new year. So things that I wanted to achieve through fitness, through Keep Moving Forward, professionally as it acts independently of Keep Moving Forward with CrossFit, coaching, different things through there. So CrossFit coaching as well as actual athletic endeavors I wanted to pursue throughout the year. So with that in mind, it really felt easy to be stagnant this year. So in just kind of a state of complacency and going through the motions, felt a lot of the time like I was running in place or kind of running on a treadmill instead of actually moving forward. And that was a weird feeling to it's kind of a weird feeling to put into words because you're still moving, it's still doing the activity, but it's not feeling like it's actually making any progress, not gaining any ground. You're kind of staying in place. And truthfully, that's something that has been a feeling I've had throughout most of 2020. And I'm sure a lot of you former athletes, current athletes might feel the same way, whether you were able to compete this year in some shape, form, or fashion or not, or whether you were able to keep coaching. If you were a coach at the university level or at the professional level, wherever you are in your athletic journey or coaching journey, maybe you felt that kind of that place of complacency, that place of stagnation when all you wanted to do was move forward. I think one of the major things I learned this year too, though, was in that complacency or feelings of complacency and stagnation that just don't sit well, especially if you are an athlete in some form or were an athlete in some form. You most likely have that innate desire to keep moving, to progress, to do better than you did yesterday. And some days this year, it felt like just going through the motions, being disciplined enough to keep going was enough. And in that, though, it's felt like a lot of times I was failing because I didn't actually feel like I was making any kind of progress forward, helping anybody, helping anything, helping myself. The only thing I was doing was keep moving forward, going. It didn't feel like a lot was achieved. But in those moments of feeling like a failure, feeling like I had plateaued, the same kind of feeling I felt when I graduated college and I thought that my life was over. I don't mean that dramatically. I mean, truly, I thought because my athletic career was over that I had lost my identity and that I had peaked in college, that there was nothing greater I would achieve once I graduated. And of course, in pursuit of keep moving forward and after having the chance to speak with incredible people that I get to on this podcast and that I get to speak with every day just through coaching and in different daily pursuits, of course, that's not true. Your identity is rooted in something so much greater. It is not based upon your ability to triple jump far or to run 100-meter hurdles quickly. It is not rooted in the sport that you chose to play or the sport that maybe chose you and brought you a lot of opportunities. In those moments of feeling like a failure and thinking maybe you were facing defeat and felt like, okay, this is it. I'm not making progress, just going through the motions. I think that is where grace enters the story. So it's the importance of having grace with yourself, having grace with others. If maybe you feel like others are not leading up to your expectations in certain ways, maybe you were trying to pursue something with someone else as far as goals or on your team, whatever, as maybe a coaching staff, an assistant coach, a head coach, whatever it is, you're in pursuit of those goals with others and you're relying on others or even relying on yourself and you feel like you're letting yourself down or others seem like they're letting you down. In a year where community seems to be lacking. It's hard to get together with people, to just be in community and relationship with others. It can be really hard. It can be really, and that's okay that it's hard, and it's okay to admit that it's hard, but then where do you go from there? Do you just beat yourself up? Do you just stay in that place because you think now you're undeserving because you didn't work hard enough or you didn't actually make progress? Or do you decide, I'm going to forgive myself, I'm going to have grace with myself, I'm going to have grace with others maybe that I came in contact with along this journey so far this past year? In that moment of having grace, you don't stay in the place. You can't stay in that place for long. So you forgive yourself and you have to move forward. So what does that forward movement look like now? So maybe you haven't addressed this until now. Maybe now you're thinking it's 2021, time to turn over a new leaf, time to pursue those goals, time to make my goals list, and I'm going to start new, turn over that page, let's go. Maybe you are someone who's done that every year. Maybe that's historically what you can hang your hat on. But maybe it feels different this year. Maybe it's something where you have this list of goals you want to get after, but there's something maybe in you that thinks there's no way you're going to achieve them, no way you're going to be able to get after them because of what has happened this last year. And I'm not talking worldwide. I'm talking with you in your own heart, in your own head. Where are you at? And right now is the time to be honest with yourself. Did you have a hard time achieving the things you wanted to achieve? Did you have a hard time because you didn't achieve them? Did you have a hard time because you thought you would do certain things that you weren't able to this year because of the pandemic or because of certain things that happened? You owe it to yourself to be real and honest with what's going on inside of you, because in that honesty, maybe you will realize not that goal setting or that the pursuit of achievement is ever bad. It is never inherently bad, but your why behind it has to be true, and it has to be rooted in your honest self. So maybe in the past, it's been rooted in your just drive to be better, your drive to want to achieve that next fitness goal, or to launch that next podcast, or to move from being an assistant coach to a head coach, or move from being a part-time coach to a full-time coach, a head coach, whatever that is. Maybe that's the way where you operated from in January 2020, leading into this past year. But where are you at on January 3rd, 2021, looking forward into this next year? Where is it that you are operating from today? And if today is the day you realize you feel like you kind of sucked this last year, and you feel like you, in your heart, feel like you didn't achieve what you wanted, well, then sit down and realize where you can derive grace from. Where can you start to forgive yourself from? You have to start there in order to positively progress forward. Because if you operate from a place of anger or frustration or just being mad with yourself, you're never gonna fully achieve what you can, because you're not rooting yourself in the right things. So my challenge for you would be, today, again, decide where you're coming from. Have you forgiven yourself if you feel like you haven't achieved what you wanted to this last year because of any outside circumstances or any inside circumstances? And then decide where you want to go from here, because that's the only thing in your power, where you want to go. You get to decide that. No one else gets to decide that for you. And it starts within your heart and within your own head. So from there, you have to decide. And not that every day is going to be super easy. Some days it's going to be really hard. Some days you're going to revert back to maybe some tendencies that you fell into this past year of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I didn't achieve the things I wanted to because of this, this, and this. You have to take ownership over what you can take ownership over. And you can take ownership over your thoughts and your heart. You can take ownership over those two things and move forward from there. So my challenge, again, I'm reiterating myself, is take small steps every single day. So say you want to achieve, you had this lofty aspiration of achieving something this year. You want to achieve this big goal. Okay, well, what is that big goal that you want to achieve? Let's say you want to launch a podcast. Let's start there. I want to launch a podcast this year, and I want it to be about helping current and former professional collegiate athletes about transitioning out of the sporting world and into the real world. Sounds kind of familiar. That's a similar, kind of a familiar theme. But if you wanted to launch a podcast like that for whatever reason, You have to figure out, okay, where do I go from here? What is a small step I can take? So that's a lofty goal, to want to launch a whole podcast. You have to decide a lot of things. How frequently do you want to do that? Do you want it to be a podcast of just you talking? Do you want it to be a podcast of having an interview with someone else? Do you want to have multiple people? Maybe it's a panel discussion. Whatever that is, you have to make a decision of what style podcast, what style discussions you want to hold. What is the length of podcast you want to have? Do you want it to be to 10 to 15 minute bite-sized pieces? Do you not want to limit your time? Do you want to have it be an hour, 45 minutes, where you're just talking freely with someone about a topic? That is also another decision you have to make. Do you want it to be video? Do you want it to be video and audio? Well, you have to have audio to do video. Do you want it to just be audio? Or do you want it to be both video and audio? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you know what podcasting platform you're going to use? All of these little things you have to decide. And you hear it, it's overwhelming to think about at first when you think about it. But again, you have to reel it in and realize, okay, I have this big goal. I know there's a bunch of little things I have to do to get to that end goal of launching a podcast about athletics. So what am I going to do today? So first step could be come up with the name of your podcast. Decide what is the topic that you want to discuss. Interviewing current and former professional collegiate athletes, helping athletes transition. That's the mission. That's the goal. Okay, if that's the goal, then that drives how you want the discussions to go. Do you want it to be just you talking about your own experiences? Do you want to be speaking with other people about their experiences and maybe pulling in your own along the way? Do you want it to be a panel discussion of where you are equally sharing in the story with others, maybe former teammates, whatever that looks like? You can make that decision next. So from there, after making that decision, you can curate, write out an introduction, write out an outro to your podcast. You can decide if you want bumper music. You can research different bumper music and put that onto your intro and outro after you record. And even before all of this, you want to decide, okay, today, this is very different from even 4 years ago when I launched my podcast, where you having the external recording equipment like I still have today. But now you can record things right directly on your phone. You don't even need all of this equipment. There are apps that exist today where you can even record just directly into the app itself. You don't even need a microphone or anything external. Zoom has obviously made a huge surge this year with video and audio with companies, but then too, it's a lot of ways that people record podcasts. A lot of podcasts and vlogs have launched this year because of that. So there's no shortage of platforms that you can research and look into to use for this pursuit, if that is something that you want to get after. My point in all of this is to say there's a bunch of little things that you can do, but you need to sit down and write out, what am I going to do tomorrow that is going to set me on a right path for the end of the year through the rest of 2021. So that first step forward is coming up with a name of your podcast. The next step is a mission of your podcast. The next step could be writing out the questions. It's every single day doing one small thing to help you get there, because I think it's easy to forget that there's no timetable, there's no time restraint on when you achieve your goals. I think as athletes, it's really easy to get bogged down with that. And that's certainly something that I get bogged down with still to this day, even when I remind myself to not. Because you think, okay, I have this goal and I have to achieve it by a certain day. I remember one of the biggest, which kind of sent me on this trajectory that I'm on now, because every piece of your journey can play some role in the overall story that brings you to where you are, I think. And with Keep Moving Forward specifically, one thing I can point back to was in high school, my goal for triple jump was to jump 38 feet. And I remember I set that goal when I was a freshman in high school. My dad bought me a subscription to USA Track and Field magazine. And in it was a great magazine. In it, they said that to qualify for the Youth Olympic Games, so you had to be 17 years old or younger. And I guess I was 14 or 15 when I was a freshman in high school. I don't remember how old. But you have to be under 17 to qualify for the Youth Olympic Games. And to do that, you had to jump 38 feet in the triple jump. So 38 feet. That number, 38, I wrote it down on a piece of paper, put it on my mirror, and that was I was going to jump that by my junior year, specifically junior year winter season, because I had to jump it before the year I turned 17. So that was going to be the spring track and field season. So I had to jump 38 feet in the winter season by my junior year. Because in track, you can have two seasons. There's winter track in the winter, and then spring track is the main season. So with that, I wrote 38 feet on my piece of paper. That was my goal, to jump that distance. Well, junior year came and went, and I never jumped that distance. And I remember coming off of my winter season, and I was just devastated. I could not believe I didn't achieve what I wanted to. And it stuck with me. It sat on my heart. But though I didn't achieve it in that 2-year span, I still kept 38 feet as something I wanted to achieve. I kept writing it down every year through high school, and then when I went on to college at Oglethorpe in Atlanta, I still kept that piece of paper, and I hung it on my wall every year. And over time, it was something that I honestly forgot the meaning of, because I just kept that number 38. I just kept putting that piece of paper up because it was the discipline that kept me going, of reminding myself, okay, 38 feet. But again, by the time my freshman, sophomore, junior year of college came around, I really did forget what 38 feet actually meant to me, because I was so fixated on the time I wanted to achieve it in. I wanted to achieve it in 2 years, but I didn't. So fast forward to junior year of college. So I finally, it was one of the last meets of the season, and I finally jumped 38 feet. And when they pulled the tape measure, I couldn't actually believe the distance that they said. They said 38 feet. And I was like, oh, I was in disbelief. And then I just went on, carried on, jumped my next jump. And the reason I was in disbelief was because in jumping 38 feet, you qualified for Division III NCAA National Championship. So if you don't know, in college, there's Division I, Division II, Division III, and there's also NAIA. Division III is for the smaller schools. So it's not Division I. Division I would be probably like 40 to 42 feet you would have to jump in order to qualify. But 38 feet qualified me for Division III Nationals. I went home after this track meet. We had traveled out of state. We came back home to Georgia. I was in my dorm room. I was unpacking, and I looked up on my wall, and where that piece of paper was hung, and it said 38 feet. And I just bust into tears because I could not believe I had forgotten what that meant to me. I never forgot the number, but I had forgotten what it felt like to be a junior in high school and to not hit the distance that I desperately wanted to hit. To not hit the distance that would earn me that huge goal of going to the Junior Olympics at 17. Something that I never even was close to when I was in high school. But it took me 4 more years until I was a junior in college. That is finally when I hit that distance. I set it freshman year of high school, and I didn't jump it until junior year of college. That's 6 whole years, almost 7 whole years of waiting and working before I achieved that goal. So my point is that at 15, 14-year-old me believed that I was going to the Junior Olympics to set me up to go to the real Olympics, the actual Olympics, in the triple jump and compete for Team USA. And of course, that was not at all what happened. I did not have the athletic aptitude to do that. I was a Division III athlete, which I'm incredibly proud to have been. But the best and hardest working for me meant that I could jump 38 feet by the time I was 21 years old. And that 38 feet, though it didn't earn me a spot in the Junior Olympic team, it earned me a spot on the Division III National Championship team. And so that to me, reflecting back after having all of those years of just desperately wanting to hit that number, hit 38 feet, that meant more. But I never could have imagined what it meant to me. Even then, as a junior, when I hit that distance, reflecting back now, it means so much more because of what it meant to me as a freshman in high school. I won't forget probably ever the devastation I felt of not jumping 38 feet at my final track meet winter season as a junior in high school. But more than that, I will never forget, even more so, what it felt like to finally jump it and have the realization of what 14, 15-year-old Katie desperately wanted to achieve. I say all of that, I guess, in this roundabout way to showcase that it's really easy to get bogged down in your own timetable and to think that I have this goal that I want to achieve and I'm going to achieve it by this exact date. But the thing is you might not achieve it by that exact date because that just might not be in the cards. If you put in the work and you drive and you stay determined, I wholeheartedly know and believe that you will achieve the goals you set your mind to. But the ultimate outcome of that goal might not look exactly the way you envisioned initially. Another practical example of something from actually this last year is ever since I started coaching CrossFit a couple of years ago, 4 years ago actually, when Keep Moving Forward was launched, as soon as I started, I drank the Kool-Aid, like that saying that I think most everybody says if you really just fall in love with CrossFit. I pursued getting my level 1 credential, so becoming a level 1 CrossFit trainer, then got my level 2 within about a year and a half to 2 years after that. And in that pursuit, my ultimate goal was to be a level 4 CrossFit coach by the time I was 30 years old. So I'm 27. I'm still not 34, still not 30, and I still have not achieved my level 4 pursuit. But in order to get there, you get level 1, level 2, level 3, and then level 4. So the level 1 and level 2 are a weekend seminar at the end of which you take a test. And if you pass the test, then you earn the credential of being a level 1 or a level 2 trainer. Next, the CrossFit Level 3 is an exam, and you become a CrossFit certified trainer in that once you study for and take that exam. So it's not actually a seminar weekend where you're evaluated. Your evaluation is solely based upon your passing or failing of the test. And then after that is the level 4 credential, which I'm not sure of all the ins and outs of that yet. I've done a little bit of research, but I'm pretty sure someone comes out and actually evaluates you and they give you a person from CrossFit seminar staff, CrossFit HQ gives you the passing or failing of that. But so for me, level 1 and level 2 were checked out the list. And in pursuit of achieving this level 4 credential by the time I'm 30 years old, I knew that I had to take and pass my level 3 by the time I'm 27, by the time I'm 28. So by the time of this year, this upcoming April, because that's gonna be my birthday when I'm 28. So because of the number of hours you have to accumulate to pursue the level 3, and then the level 4 too, all of the different credentials that you have to accumulate before getting there. So I studied for, created this whole study guide, mapped out my study schedule, and believed I was ready to take the CrossFit Level 3 exam this past November. And turns out I was not actually prepared, or as prepared as I thought I was. I studied, and my goal was, all right, I'm going to come in, take this test, check it off, I'm going to pass it. I failed my first time taking the CrossFit Level 3 exam. So I had a good hard cry in my car because, of course, coming off of what I talked about in the beginning of this episode with feeling like a just complete failure at times this year, not in a dramatic or overbearing way. It's just sometimes it was hard to think you're putting in work, but after failing that test, it was one of those moments where I felt like I was just running in place. I didn't think I studied the right things, which I didn't after taking the test and realizing that. I didn't dedicate time to the correct things that I needed to. And it's easy to think externally, like, man, if this was different, if I hadn't moved, if I hadn't started this new job, if I hadn't done this, and this, maybe I would have passed the test. But at the end of the day, I am the one who's in charge of my study schedule. I am the one who is in charge of my coaching. I am the one who is in charge of whether or not I am fully prepared for this test. I can't know what the test is going to be like before I go into it fully, other than what I study and what I review. But I have to take ownership over the fact that I failed the test because I wasn't prepared exactly for it. And that is a hard pill to swallow, especially with, again, if you're an athlete and you have that goal-oriented mindset where every goal has to have a very specific timetable. And I totally believe in SMART, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-sensitive goals. I very much believe in that. But there are times where being married to a timetable can actually be to your detriment. Like when I wanted to jump 38 feet, yes, I would have loved to go to the Youth Olympics at 17 years old, but I don't believe that was actually what was meant for me at that time. I believe that 38 feet was not meant to be achieved until I was a junior in college, so that I could fully appreciate what it meant to be an athlete, to be a triple jumper, and to be a Division III athlete and everything that went with that. And of course, that whole story was something playing a much larger role into what I have today with Keep Moving Forward. That was the genesis of Keep Moving Forward, flashing all the way back to high school and bringing me to where I am today, because this platform is rooted in helping athletes discover their identity outside of sport, knowing that their whole worth is not based upon that 400-meter oval or the soccer pitch or the basketball court. Their worth is so much greater than that. And For me, though I didn't, of course, struggle any major hardships, going through that was very difficult. The pill to swallow of, if I work hard enough, if I have enough discipline, I'm going to achieve exactly what I want to in exactly this amount of time that I want to. Sometimes it does not work out exactly like that. So if it doesn't work out like that, then you have to decide, well, where am I going from here? Do I still want to achieve this goal? Of course you do. Of course that's something that you still want to get after and go for, but you have to adjust. And more than that, you have to be willing to adjust. So deciding to give up because you didn't achieve it in exactly the amount of time that you wanted to, that would be failing. Deciding that you are not good enough because you didn't achieve it in 2 months' time or 2 years' time, that would be failing because you're failing yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice by not allowing yourself to continue on this path. Because again, you may not achieve this goal or it may not look exactly the way you wanted it to or thought you wanted it to, but it is going to be exactly what it is meant to be in its achievement. So, coming off of my CrossFit Level 3 test and failing it my first time, I've now created a new study schedule, and looking forward, I have to figure out when I'm going to take this test again. So I have to modify, though. I can't just do the same thing I did before and expect a different outcome. I have to now reflect inward, take ownership of what I can take ownership of, and move forward with a new plan of action to achieve this goal. So I'll keep you guys posted with how that goes. I know because I've taken it of things that I need to focus on more. So that will be hugely helpful in this pursuit to study for my test. And I still have the aspiration of becoming a level 4 CrossFit coach by the time I am 30. And that is not something that is completely unrealistic. It's going to be incredibly challenging now because of the timeline and because I didn't pass my level 3 CrossFit test the first time around. But that's okay. I can still fight for it. I can still push for it and hope for the best outcome. But I know no matter what, at some point in my life, I'm going to achieve being a CrossFit Level 4 coach if I want to be that, if I want to pursue it. But my timeline might be a little off. I just have to keep moving forward, for lack of a better term, lack of a better phrase. And I know I say that a lot, and I know I call myself a self-proclaimed forward mover. And even just like with 38 feet, keep moving forward can sometimes lose its meaning because I say it so much and I write it down literally everywhere. It's my mantra. It's on my background on my computer right now. It's the background on my phone. It's the way I live my life. I wrote it on my graduation cap when I graduated college, having no knowledge of what I was going to do with those 3 words, creating any kind of platform. I was terrified of public speaking, so the idea that I have a podcast is kind of insane. But again, the genesis started, I can trace it back to freshman year of high school, but I'm sure I can trace it back to even younger times when I was a gymnast when I was little, when I played basketball when I was little. I mean, you can trace back to any point in your athletic career and find little nuggets in your story that showcase and maybe prove to you that you are on this path for a reason and that you were placed on this path for a reason. And through all that, I just really want to encourage you. If you are someone who really felt like you've been struggling through these last few months or honestly the last year, whether it was due to feeling the pressures of the pandemic or any other things that happened this year that might have just not looked the way you wanted them to, I want to encourage you that it's all part of a bigger story. So though you feel like maybe it's not turning out the way you envisioned, maybe it's not the way, or maybe it's nothing, looks literally nothing like you thought it would, just keep going. You don't know what's going to happen. Keep pressing, keep moving. Just don't give up, because that's when things will start to go south. You have to trust yourself and know that you are worthy. You are here for a reason. And if one door closed, then maybe it's not that you are supposed to find another door. Maybe you're just supposed to kick it down until it gives and you proudly and confidently walk back through it. Don't misconstrue certain signs as roadblocks, as things that are trying to divert you from your path. Sometimes there are, and sometimes you feel like you might be backed into a corner and you have to adjust, and that's actually the best thing for you. But maybe not. And you won't know whether or not that's true or what path you're supposed to keep going down, if you're supposed to kick down that door or to revert and go to a different path, or not revert, but change course and go someplace else unless you keep trying. You have to keep moving. You can't keep running on your treadmill. You have to get off and actually walk forward. You have to take those steps forward. And eventually you can just start sprinting. Just run really fast towards those goals. I realize I equate most things to track and field analogies, so I apologize. Probably one of the last things I'll say to you guys for this episode is this. One of the things I hate most, and that just rocks me to my core, is this. I hate doing episodes where it's just me talking. It's really, really, really challenging to do this. I wait till the last minute when I know I'm going to record something on my own. It takes me forever to plan it out, to map it out, to write out what I'm going to say. I just don't like it. I love interviews. I love being able to speak with someone and bounce ideas off of them. I love asking them genuine questions about their life's journey and how they got to where they are today and what they want to be remembered for and all of those things. But this is incredibly challenging for me. And it honestly got to the point this week where I thought maybe I just won't put an episode out. Maybe I'll just, for the first time in 247 weeks, I will not put an episode out. But the thought of that was just, I could not do that because it's been so long. And not just because you should do something continually because you've done it. That's not the way things should be. But because in 247 weeks, the discipline to keep going, to keep moving forward, to keep this platform alive, and what it's brought me in 4.5 years and 247 weeks, in those weeks, what have happened because of this platform, that is what keeps me going. And it's people like you who listen on the other end of this, and people that I get to speak to through the other end of my microphone. I mean, that's what keeps it going. So just wanted to leave you with that when you feel like your back's against the wall and you just don't want to do it. Maybe you don't want to move. Maybe you don't want to continue on this path that you're on. Maybe you don't think it's benefiting anybody. You don't feel like it's benefiting yourself anymore. You can't give up, because that's the ultimate failure, is thinking that you've already failed when you truthfully, the door of opportunity, the thing that's going to make you successful, or the thing that you need, your breakthrough, it's literally one more step ahead. It's literally one more week, one more episode ahead. So I just encourage you to, as always, keep moving forward. Take that step and just keep the path, stay true, kick down doors. Don't give up. Divert your path if needed. Go down a different way. But keep your eyes up. Know that you're worth it. Know that you're worthy. Know that you're here for a reason. And know that you can do this. You have the capability. I know you can. So again, take ownership of what you can take ownership of. You get to choose where you move forward from here. So take it, and you will never be defeated. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. To learn more about our guest, check out the show notes at keepmovingforward.us. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date on all things coming out of the KMF Collective Studio. Always remember, you can beat the odds and go the distance if only you keep moving forward.